Hey there, we're going to look at 4.3 today on horizontal and vertical lines. This is a pretty short lesson that we're going to do. The objectives here, really, again, we got three objectives, but they're all going to interlace pretty quickly here. Identify horizontal and vertical lines, be able to write the equations for horizontal and vertical lines, and also determine the slope of horizontal and vertical lines. And it falls under these two standards, dealing with interpreting the meaning of coefficients and factors and terms. And also translating between the equivalent forms of the function to reveal and explain different properties. And so remember that a horizontal line, oops, let's not jump way over there. A horizontal line is a line that looks like this. It just goes from left to right, right? And then a vertical line is a line that goes up and down, right? So one way to remember horizontal is that the root of horizontal is horizon. And so that's one way to remember that the horizon is, like when you look out across at the sky and looking out at the horizon, right? Okay, so let's look at a couple examples of these and talk about what you're going to be looking at today. So the first example, let's just talk about if I'm trying to graph x equals -7, for example. Okay, and so two things that you're going to be asked is to be able to graph it and find the slope, or be able to look at a graph and give the slope and understand what the equation of that line is going to be. So first we're going to look at an equation, graph it on the coordinate plane. And so when x is equal to -7, what that means is that my line will cross the x-axis at -7. So put a dot there. But where else is x equal to -7 in this problem? Well, think about ordered pairs for a second. I'm going to blow this graph up a little bit. Think about, where else x might be -7. Well, if I go to this ordered pair, for example, right? This point. This is the ordered pair -7, 9. X is still equal to -7. There's nothing in this equation that ever tells me that y has to be a particular value when x is equal to -7. And if I come down here to this point is -7, 5. And so when I draw this, all these points will give me this. And so I get a vertical line. So here's the thing to understand. Remember that it's going to cross at x equals -7, but that's not my only point. It's the point where every point along that line has the x value of -7, and that is a vertical line. Now, one way to remember this is that a graph can only cross the lines for what variables are in the equation. So if an equation only has x's in it, then the vertical line can only cross the x-axis. It can never touch the y-axis, right? Now, we talked about crossing. It may touch the y-axis because our vertical line might be the y-axis. And think about what x value that would give, right? So just talking about here real quick. So that x is equal to 0, right? Because every point along this line, right, x is equal to what value? X is equal to 0. Okay? Now let's talk about the slope of this line. We talked about slope in the last two lessons, slope and rate of change. And so if I pick 2 points, like I've got -7, 5 here, and this would be -7 and -5, and then -7, 9. So I've got 9 minus -5 over -7 minus -7. And so it's going to give me 14, because we'll have that double negative there becoming a positive. And -7 plus 7 gives me 0. And remember that 14 over 0 is undefined. Remember, because you cannot divide by 0. And so the slope of any vertical line is undefined, because the x values will never change, and so you're dividing by 0, and so you can't divide by 0, right? It's undefined. Okay, so let's look at another graph here. Let's look at y is equal to 3. Well, again, let's think about where is y equal to 3 on this graph. Well, y is equal to 3 here, right? But is that the only point where y is equal to 3? No. Y is also equal to 3 here at the order pair 4, 3, right? Y is also equal to 3 out here at -8, 3. So all those points have a y value of 3. Again, our equation says nothing about the x, so the x value can be anything. It can be any x value that I want. But the key is that the y must be 3. And so let's look at the slope of this. M is equal to, we're going to get the 3 minus the 3 over the 4 minus the negative 8. 3 minus 3 is 0. Double negative here will become positive, and so I'm going to get 4 plus 8 is 12. And 0 divided by 12 is 0. So the slope of this horizontal line is 0. And that's the key to remember, is that the slope of any horizontal line is 0. All right, so let's look at going the opposite direction here. Let's say I've already got a line on the graph, and we're looking at it, and we have to determine which variable is it going to start with. Well, to answer this question, go back to what we said before. A line can only cross the axes of what it is touching. And so this line only crosses which axis? Well, it crosses this axis at 2. So whatever is going to happen is going to be equal to what value? 2. Which axis is it crossing? It's crossing the x. And so this line is x equals 2. Now, what's the slope of this line? Well, the m would be what? It's a vertical line, and so the slope of a vertical line is what? Undefined, right? Go back to what we just said a moment ago. The slope of any vertical line is what? Undefined. Okay? And then we'll look at this one. And so again, think about where this line is at. Which axis is it crossing? Is it crossing the x-axis or the y-axis? It's crossing the y-axis. Well, what value is it crossing at? It's crossing at -5. That's the equation of the line. It's that simple. And what's the slope of this line? Well, this is a flat line. There's no rise to it, right? It's just running, run all day. So my slope is 0. Again, we could pick a couple ordered pairs, plug it all in, but remember what we said up here. The slope of any what? Horizontal line is 0. So that's it for this section. You're going to get 10 questions on this today. It's going to be very easy. Again, trying to make these lessons every day with this e-learning as easy as I can. Don't forget about the Zoom classroom, like I mentioned in the announcement video. And the word of the day is vertical. Again, the word of the day is vertical. So make sure you submit your attendance with that. And again, have a great day, stay safe, and see y'all on the flip side.